When I just got 18 years old, I decided to go on a voluntary trip to South Korea. So I applied for a passport and it arrived 10 days before the day I had to leave. So I bought my plane ticket that weekend, about 7 days before leaving, which is very short. And then I started packing my luggage. I had one big suitcase, one backpack, and one purse. My family brought me to the airport. We left at 3 a.m. on June 25, 2013, and arrived at around 5 a.m. at Trudeau Airport in Montreal because it was closer. I checked in my big suitcase and I had my backpack on my back and my purse in my hands, and I hugged my parents and sister and I went and left them behind. I went through security. I didn't know a lot of things. I had to remove my shoes. I have to take my computer out of my backpack, but I didn't know at first. So um, I put my bag on the thing that rolls, and I went through the thing that for metal, and then I had to go back and do it again, take my computer out and everything. And then after all of that, I put my computer back in my bag and put it back on my shoulder. I took my passport and I went to American Customs because I had an a transfer in Chicago. So the American Custom agent, he was very, very nice. He was curious because I told him I was going to South Korea as a volunteer. Very curious, but yeah, couldn't talk that long. But it was 5:30. It wasn't that early or crowded. So after that, after going through customs, I went to the waiting area for my plane. I walked a lot to get there, and I waited about 2 hours before I could get on my plane to O'Hare Airport. So I got on and I was scared because it was my first time in a plane. So I buckled up as it was said to do, and I had put my bags everywhere. I buckled up, and then the plane started going to the place where it has to start to to fly, I guess. Um, and the flight took about an hour and a half to go to Chicago, which is very short actually. And I listened to music and read books through those um, through that time. So I arrived in Chicago, and what did I discover? Very, very big airport. I had never, well, it was my first time going through airports, and I was actually very surprised because O'Hare Airport in Chicago is one of the biggest in America, along with JFK and LAX. So yeah, I had to take a tramway from Terminus 2 to Terminus 5, and I rode for about like 5 to 10 minutes uh, in the tramway, and it went on the like next to the highway. And then I looked at my watch on my wrist, and I was terrified because I thought I would be late because I didn't know there was a time difference. I had entered a new time zone, so I asked the person, and uh, he was American, and he thought I came from New York, And I told him, no, I come from Quebec. And then the man knew French, and we spoke French a little bit, and I was very surprised. And I thanked him because I asked him for the time, and that's it. So when I arrived to Terminus 5, I had to go through customs again because I was leaving for South Korea. So again, going through customs because it's another terminus. And now I knew that I had to leave my computer out and take off my shoes and all of those things. So I didn't create a commotion or whatever at customs. And I hadn't seen those signs at the airport in Montreal. So I went to the waiting area for the plane again. Waited a few, well, 1 hour, I guess, and a half, maybe about that long. I had like a 2 hour and a half like, time between my two flights, and yeah, I think I waited for an hour and a half there, and then I got on board. It was a really, really big airplane. The airplane, I think there were 9 seats on the row, and there were like, I think there was like 40 rows or something. It was really a really big airplane. So that flight lasted 12 hours and 40 minutes. It was a really long flight, and I didn't even leave my seat to go pee. Anyway, so when the flight departed, not the flight, but the airplane departed, I was starting to feel sleepy, and I was really tired. I had gotten up at 3 in the morning, had slept like 3 hours, so I was falling asleep, and the air attendant, she woke me up so that I could eat. And at first I was like, okay, I'll eat and, go back to sleep. It didn't happen. I didn't sleep at all during the flight. So, yeah, I was really tired when arriving in Korea. I arrived at 4:30 in South Korea, in PM time. That is like 12 to 13-hour difference from Montreal. So it's a different, like if it's day in Canada, it's night in South Korea. That's it. So when I arrived in South Korea, there were these women dressed in the traditional clothing in hanboks, and they were like greeting us as we were coming in. And then I went through customs. I got my suitcase. I changed my clothes in the bathroom because I was wearing like joggings and a really big hoodie. And from the airport, I had to take the subway to go to my hostel where I was sleeping, and it was very not clear. I cannot believe how unclear it was. I asked 3 or 4 people for the way. I even asked like air attendants, and I think there was one pilot too. Like those people that go around carrying like little small suitcases uh, on uh, on wheels. I asked those people for the way, and guess what? They didn't even know. So I asked around, and there was like this center, like information center, and I went and asked the woman there, and even her, it wasn't clear where I had to go. But I managed to find where it was. So I got on the subway finally, and I rode it for I think, an hour before reaching the station that I had to get off at. And I walked for about 25 minutes to reach the guest house that I had reserved. And uh, by then it was supper time, so I went to dinner and went to bed. And I was really, really, really tired. But that was my first experience in airports and airplanes, and uh, I cannot wait to. I came back, but I cannot wait to go back again. I really liked it.